Chapter 5. What has that story got to do with your coming here? Maggie asked bluntly. I looked at her pale face, hoping she would understand what I had been trying to tell her. Yet she seemed emotionally distant, as though my words had never truly reached her. My daughter, at least listen to me this once. This may be the only opportunity I have to explain myself fully, I said, fixing my gaze upon her. But her eyes remained on the glass of wine resting on the table. Perhaps she had finally given in and poured me one. Even so, nothing could change history. A swallow of wine could never wash away the bitterness that the past still carried. It's 20 minutes to 6, Maggie said, glancing at the wall clock as though measuring how much of her precious time I had already wasted. I still have a lot to tell you, Maggie. Please don't give up on me this early. She pushed herself from the sofa. Perhaps it was no longer comfortable, or perhaps something else troubled her. There is supper to prepare. Fred will be back soon. 3 hours pass faster than you think. She headed toward the kitchen. Of course she meant it, yet I stubbornly valued what I wanted to say more than what she had already decided. It is still early, Maggie. Give me 1 more hour. I promise I will explain everything. The irritation on her face remained unchanged. I have already given you 2 hours, she replied from the doorway, and nothing you've said explains why you came here. Your childhood stories should have died in the 80s. They are not even worth telling your grandchildren. She paused. If you deserve grandchildren at all. The words struck harder than I expected. As she disappeared into the kitchen, a thought finally surfaced, one I had buried ever since I arrived. When is she coming? I asked, lifting the wine to my lips. Who? Maggie replied while arranging ingredients on the kitchen counter. My granddaughter? I let my eyes drift toward her stomach. Maggie immediately understood what I meant. For a brief moment, she had nowhere left to hide. She's only 3 months old, Maggie answered quietly. Then she looked away. What does that have to do with you anyway? You hardly care about anything. Her voice was firm. The weight of those words settled inside me together with the wine. This time I swallowed both. So Fred knows about this? I asked calmly. About your staying here so long? Maggie replied while picking up a knife. No, about me not knowing you were pregnant all this time. The knife stopped moving. She looked at me with disbelief before returning to the onions. I suppose you'd like to know how I found out about your pregnancy. I emptied the last of the wine and gently placed the glass on the table. For the first time since entering the kitchen, Maggie stopped completely. Fine, she said. On that note, you may continue, but I'm not coming back to sit there until supper is ready. Despite the distraction, I accepted the small victory. Perhaps she would still listen. I continued. Cootie had been right. Though the moonlight had reshaped the story during the night, everything became painfully clear the following morning. Father's body lay in the middle of the house. Around him sat a sea of mourners. The rest of us surrounded him in tears. Matto, like most boys in the village, tried to hide his grief. But the moment Naka and Naki burst into the house, sobbing openly, even his strength began to crack. Older women spoke of father as a wise chairman who had served Malibu Village with understanding. Elderly men remembered the fairness he had shown while resolving family disputes. The house became so crowded that there was barely room left for those of us who actually lived there. Others sat outside on stools, wooden benches, or stones scattered across the compound. Mother was there too. She looked almost detached from reality. She had cried throughout the entire night. Now she seemed to have exhausted even her ability to cry. Outside, some women sitting on the veranda had already buried themselves in gossip about father's sudden death despite the grief surrounding them. Naka eventually rose and crossed the compound to speak with one of the elders. Several times she glanced back at me, then she returned. Her hand seized mine. It trembled as though lightning had passed through it. Her head was wrapped in a scarf that looked as though it belonged to Mother. Without saying a word, she led me away from the house. Behind us, Naki remained beside Mother, fanning her with a tray after she had fainted. As I looked back, I saw Cootie splashing water onto Mother's face from a basin, helping revive her. At that age, I barely understood what was happening. The only thing I knew how to do was cry. Perhaps I cried because Naka suddenly seemed stronger than anyone else around me. Is Mother going to die too? I asked. Naka's chocolate-brown skin blended softly with the pale morning light, as though terror itself had failed to leave its mark upon her. She glanced back toward the house before guiding me even farther away. Soon we stood behind our old bungalow house where few people could overhear us. Then she asked a question I never imagined hearing. What exactly was your relationship with Kuti before he and his family left the village? I fell silent. Before I could answer, she asked another. Did you hear Mr. Kayesu threaten father? Did he ever say he would hurt him if the matter wasn't settled immediately? Her large, searching eyes frightened me more than the questions themselves. At last she sighed. Don't force yourself if you can't answer. Her voice softened. I know this is too much for you, she squeezed my hand gently, but listen to me carefully. For a moment, the sounds of mourning drifted toward us from the compound. Then Naka spoke the words that changed everything. After father's burial, you're coming to the city with me. She paused. This place is no longer safe for you.